Stay in the know and make your voice heard on different projects happening in your neighborhood and throughout Hillsborough County by visiting Hillsborough County's Engagement Hub, the online home for outreach and listening efforts. From parks and recreation projects to roadway improvement plans, your input plays an important role in shaping the future of Hillsborough County. So make your voice heard by visiting hcflgov.net/hcengage.
Hey, would you do me a favor? Grab your phone or smart device and open up that camera. Then point it right here at the QR code. Do you have it? I'll wait a second. When you see the link pop up on your screen, give it a tap. You ready? Boom! Welcome to the Hillsborough County official YouTube channel. We've got all sorts of videos here, all about what makes our community such an awesome place. From local events and community highlights to what's in the perfect Cuban sandwich. We've got it all. We're always adding new things, so while you're here, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss a new video. Here's that QR code again, just in case you missed it. Go ahead and check it out. Ooh. This must have fallen out of that video. This really is the perfect Cuban sandwich.
Good evening and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners Comprehensive Plan Amendment Public Hearing. The Board of County Commissioners will consider the adoption of future land use map amendments to the comprehensive plan, and will also concurrently consider the proposed rezoning of a property that is the subject of a future land use map amendment. Before I pass things over to the Planning Commission, we do have Commissioner Owen that's attending virtually today, so if we can have a roll call vote to establish attendance, please.
Good evening. Hagan.
Here.
Cameron Spadea.
Here.
Cohen.
Here.
Kemp.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Owen.
Here.
Postal.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Now I'll pass things over to Michelle Weinhardt, Planning Commission, introduced this evening's first item.
Thank you, sir. We do have 3 items on the agenda, as you mentioned, and the first item is HC CPA 2311, and Ms. Sophia Garantiva will be doing the presentation for us tonight. Thank you.
Good evening.
All right, thank you. Well, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Sophia Garantiva, Planning Commission staff, presenting on HC CPA 23-11, 15908 Westlake Drive. This is a privately initiated small-scale plan amendment consisting of 3 parcels totaling approximately 20.04 acres. The applicant is requesting to go from a split future land use of Waimama Village Residential 2, WVR2, and Residential 4, Res 4, to Residential 4 in entirety. Some additional background on the proposed amendment. In 2007, the urban service area boundary was expanded. During this expansion, it was identified that some parcels were split between the new urban service area boundary line. So owners of the split parcels would have difficulty developing their property since they would need to meet different standards for development for both the urban and rural areas. As such, the publicly initiated amendment was adopted to modify the urban service area boundary once more, allowing those parcels that were split to be included in their entirety within the urban service area. The subject property was part of this expansion. At that time, the future land use designation was not changed. As part of the effort to correct those parcels with multiple future land use categories, property owners were later given the option to decide which future land use designation to change to. The property owners of the subject site are now exercising that option with this request. The site is in the southern area of the county, north of the intersection of State Road 674 and Westlake Drive, within the urban service area. It is also within the Waimama Village Community Plan. The aerial photograph here shows the site shaded in blue on the east side of Westlake Drive. It's surrounded by agricultural to the east and west, single family to the north, to the east and south, single family to the north and west. There is currently a single family home and mobile home on the 2 southern parcels, and on the northern parcel, it's considered vacant. So as previously mentioned, the adopted future land use of the site is split between Res 4 and WVR2. Res 4 allows for a density of 4 dwelling units per acre and suburban scale commercial neighborhood uses, as well as office uses and multi-purpose projects. WVR2 allows for 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres with the consideration of up to 2 dwelling units per acre. Agriculture and residential support uses may also be considered. Both allow up to a 0.25 floor area ratio unless otherwise limited by locational criteria. Again, the property owner is requesting a future land use designation of Res 4 for the entirety of the site as shown on the proposed future land use map. The proposed amendment would be an increase in residential development potential from 14 dwelling units up to 80 dwelling units, with the maximum commercial intensity remaining at the same approximately 218,000 square feet. The proposed amendment was reviewed for consistency with the comprehensive plan. Future land use element, Planning Commission staff found the request consistent with the compatibility and neighborhood protection policies, as well as the community design component policies. A portion of the subject site already has the Res 4 future land use designation, and properties with a Res 4 future land use are located to the west of Westlake Drive, indicating that the subject property would be developed consistent with the surrounding area. The The proposed amendment is also consistent with the Waimama Village Community Plan vision statement and does not conflict with any policy by removing it from the WVR2 future land use category. Planning Commission found the request HC CPA 23-11 consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Apologies. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions. I believe the applicant is also here to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. The applicant, come forward. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. Colin Rice with the law firm of Older Lundy, 1000 West Cass Street. I do have a couple of slides. So I want to thank Ms. Garantiva. I think she really covered the bases here. I'll just kind of run through some of the peculiar history here and happy to answer any questions. Joined tonight by my colleague Elizabeth Keller with Older Lundy and the property owners Tim and Tina Conley. So essentially we're looking to correct an error from 2007. Reunify this site as entirely Res 4. Just to orient you, again, we're in South County in Waimama. And zooming in, you can see the 20-acre 3 parcels. To the west is Valencia Lakes. To the south and east is owned by the Bullfrog Creek Mitigation Bank. And we are entirely within the urban service area. Everything in pink is urban. Everything in yellow is rural area. And so in 2007, again, the urban service area was expanded. It was initially drawn as depicted in blue right through the Conley properties. Later that year, a couple of months later, it was expanded to surround the edge of the property boundaries. So it was updated in part, but what was left remaining was the split future land use designation. We have Res 4 to the west and WVR2 to the east. Leaving the Conleys in a bit of a pickle. They've owned this since 2001, and trust me, we're not interested in anything to do with WVR2 back in 2007. So an additional policy worth considering is 1.2, states only residential categories within the USA should have a density of 4 dwelling units per acre, buttressing the notion that WVR2 doesn't make a whole lot of sense within the urban service area, as is unfortunately the case here. We engaged in extensive public outreach. This is a bit of a confusing letter to get in the mail, so we had a lot of questions from the constituents. We held a neighborhood meeting in May. I think once we explained the history, everybody was generally supportive. We're not aware of any opposition to this application. And we have no agency objections. We're grateful for staff support on this measure, and we did receive a recommendation of approval from Planning Commission last month. So to conclude, we're really just doing a bit of cleanup from 2007. We're grateful for your time this evening. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, so thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. Anyone like to speak to this item? If not, we have a motion. Or Commissioner Wolstel.
Is there any way we could just clean up the rest of it, or does it have to wait and be heard? You can see there's a top parcel there. Is that not also the Conleys or the?
Unfortunately, I'm only authorized to represent this property owner.
Okay. I'll move for approval.
Okay, we got a motion to approve. Commissioner Wolstel, second Commissioner Cohen. If there are no other comments, please record your vote.
Yes. Motion carried 7-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item.
Yes, sir. And just to address your comment on the previous item, we will be looking at a future land use map changes after we do the element. So we'll be looking at parcels like this that are split in that part of our analysis. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item we have tonight will be presented by Ms. Carla Llanos. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Carla Llanos with Planning Commission staff. This is HC CPA 21-27. This is a privately initiated small-scale comprehensive plan amendment that began in the October 2021 cycle. The request is going from residential 4 and residential 9 to residential 12. Property is approximately 18.4 acres in size. It's located within the eastern part of the county. It's not within a community plan, and it is within the urban service area. The subject site is located off of State Route 60, which is a major transient corridor. We do have, it does have frontage on South Miller Road, as well as you can see on the map. There are several different types of uses along State Route 60. You have retail, you have mobile home to the north, you have some office uses, and you also have some general commercial uses all throughout this area. Now, as you get further south down Miller Road, you will see single-family residential use, as well as you do have some retail plazas which are located on Valrico Road and State Route 60, and then you have another one off of State Route 60 and Miller Road, so right next to the subject property. Now, the adopted future land use category, again, for the property is residential 4 and residential 9. So under this current categories, the FAR typically will be for 0.25 FAR for the future land use category of residential 4. And residential 9 will produce a FAR of 0.50. Now, they do have different densities. One of them produces 4 dwelling units an acre, and the other one produces 9 dwelling units an acre. So overall, this is kind of like the tendency as you get further south along down South Miller Road. However, the property does have within proximity other densities that equivalent to 20 dwelling units an acre, and they do have the capacity to reach up to 0.75 FAR. As you see on the map, you have that OC20 located closer to Valrico Road, and then you have a portion of Res 20 located close to St. Cloud Avenue. Now, throughout the area, again, you're going to see residential 4, residential 9. You do have pockets of residential 6 as well. Now, between looking overall at a greater scale of the development pattern along State Route 60, you do see an increase of intensity, as we're getting further or closer down to the east along State Route 60. So residential 12 requests seems to be a good transitional density in the area. It's a good medium between the OC20 and the Res 20, which is nearby. Now, maximum potential impacts. Under the existing, the property would get 119 dwelling units or 301,000 square feet of non-residential use. Now, under the proposed with the Res 12, they have a potential for 221 dwelling units or 402,000 square feet of non-residential use. However, that residential use is limited to kind of like residential support uses. The retail is further limited, of course, by CLC and the comp plan of 175,000 square feet or less. Now, overall, it does allow an increase in density and intensity, and it will allow for mixed use on all of the property. Now, Planning Commission staff reviewed it for consistency with the comprehensive plan. We looked at the urban service area and the timing of growth, the public facilities and compatibility policies. We found it consistent with all the policies, and we received, we sent it out for agency comments as well, and we received no objection from the several development services departments in the county. And currently, Planning Commission staff is recommending that the HC CPA 21-27 be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Now, just for the record, that Planning Commission did vote on this, and they recommended approval of 4-3 for this plan amendment. So, now, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I can dive a little bit deeper. I know we did the one-on-one briefing, so you're familiar with it.
All right, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is the applicant here? Good evening. Each applicant representative has up to 3 minutes if needed.
Chair, as a quick housekeeping matter, we have 8 people registered to speak tonight. I think we can get through it in about 3 of us in about 12 to 15 minutes, if that's okay with you.
That'd be fantastic.
Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Nicole Neugebauer. I'm a land use attorney at Stearns Weaver Miller in Tampa. My address is 401 East Jackson Street, for the record. We are here today representing Falcone and Associates in connection with a comprehensive plan amendment application in Valrico. We have quite the applicant team here today to answer any questions from you. So as many of you know, we have been involved with this application for a little over a year and a half now. It's been before this board. I think this is the 3rd time. And each time we take back some guidance and advice that this board and the community gives us, and we come back with an even better project. So we're here today with a new request for this comprehensive plan amendment that changes our original request from residential 20 to residential 12. As staff mentioned, this project is located on State Road 60 in Valrico at the intersection of State Road 60 and Miller Road. It's currently within the Res 4 and Res 9 future land use category, and again, we're going to residential 12 today. So with that change, we listened to this board's concerns about density, about changing to residential 20 in an area where there's a lot of lower intensity future land use categories. So we came back with a project that reduces the density from 16.89 units an acre to 12 units an acre, or up to 13.64 with the gray water bonus under Florida statutes. So there's multiple reasons for why this board should support this amendment today. First, as many of you know, there is a housing demand in Florida due to the number of people that are constantly moving here. This is an infill project within the urban service area. It's along the transit corridor, State Road 60, and it eliminates the strip commercial development along State Road 60 and also provides a transition to the single family development to the south. With that, I'd like to bring up David Smith to go over those items. Thank you.
Good evening, David Smith, the Director of Development and Zoning for Stearns Weaver Miller. As was initiated by Nicole, this project is well situated to address several concerns in consistency with the comp plan. One is that Florida is now, for the first time since 1957, is the #1 location for growth. Hillsborough County is getting more than its share of that demand. Infill development. When you look at the picture in the graphic above now, you see that we're surrounded by developed subdivisions, existing commercial, fairly intense commercial, all along State Road 60, transitioning to the south to lesser dense property. This provides an opportunity to infill with medium density residential that provide transitions and protect the single family further south down Miller Road in the general area. It also has the opportunity to break up the commercial line that's along State Road 60, and I'll get to that in just a second. So compatibility and infill. It's appropriate for, it's really not appropriate for lower densities. Lower density projects stay away from major arterials. They try to, as started to develop on Miller Road, pull back on their intensities until they can get further away from those traffic high generators. Ideal for medium and high density because those projects have more need for transit access to corridors. They can get to adjacent commercial development. I think, again, this is a good site for that. Grocery stores, retail centers are all up and down and available to serve the higher densities. You try to place them also higher density close to transit corridors, which we are on. We're surrounded by non-residential zonings, but for 2 strips of older zoning where 2 single-family homes exist. Within the urban service area, matter of fact, we're 1.6 miles from the edge of the urban service area, well within the area that's expected to receive the growth that's coming to this community. As I indicated, the transit corridor is right in front of us on State Road 60. Here's the opportunity to eliminate strip commercial. Right now we have approval for a commercial development, 75,000 square feet, right at the intersection of Miller and 60. That provides us an opportunity to eliminate that, break up the strip commercial, put higher density development or medium density development in that area. Consistency with the comp plan. We're within the urban service area. Adequate public facilities have been determined to be existing. Compatibility has been verified by the Planning Commission. and subsequently, you'll hear in the zoning hearing master, protect surrounding neighborhoods and basically avoid strip commercialization in the area. Elise Bassel.
Good evening. For the record, Elise Batzel, Stearns Weaver Miller, 401 East Jackson Street. I want to talk a little bit about community engagement on this project, which I know has been very important. Since we've been working on this project since January of 2022, we've had numerous community engagement opportunities. We've had community meetings, numerous correspondence, emails, and telephone conversations with individual community members. And as late as this week, we had 2 Zoom meetings to bring the community up to speed on reminding them where we were and reminding them where we are today. So why has the Planning Commission supported this application twice? This is a comp plan amendment, and we look to the guidelines as developers in your comprehensive plan to tell us where development should go. The area is planned for higher density and intensity. It is consistent with the comprehensive plan. There is sufficient capacity for urban services in this area, and the proposed CPA, in their words, is consistent with all of the goals, objectives, and policies of the future land use element. I want to talk a little bit about specifics just so I can remind you where we've been and where we're going to be, and we'll talk about this more if this moves on to the rezoning. If you recall, this was originally an application for Res 20, and the companion zoning asked for 312 multifamily units with mostly 4-story buildings with full access on State Road 60 and exit on Miller Road. Based on community input from this board, we modified that application on 3.9, and again, we have significantly reduced what we're asking for today to Res 12, which would be 221 units as opposed to 312, which is 12 dwelling units or 13.6 with gray water. We're down to 3-story and 2-story buildings as opposed to 4, and full access on 60 only with emergency access on Miller Road, all directly responsive to this board's comments and the community's comments. I want to talk a little bit about what's there today. We'll get into this more if we go on to the next hearing, but there is by right commercial in the area outlined in red today under the PD that allows 75,000 square feet of commercial general uses. In the back where it's not outlined in red, that's where the 86 townhomes are currently permitted. But I did want to let you know that was by right commercial development along State Road 60. So we kind of put a list of what are all the advantages to this application today. You've got a reduction in units, 0 access points on Kennedy or on Miller Road, a maximum height of 3 stories, 1,691 daily trips. That is down from 5,282 in the urban service area, and most importantly, it would eliminate the ability to use the Live Local Act if you adopted these 2
Ms. Batzel, you have
matters.
someone else ready to speak?
Nope, we are concluding right now. Thank you very much for your time.
No other speakers? This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to this item? Please come forward.
Commissioner, we have 2 virtual.
Okay. And Adam or Joanne, do you want to just let the speakers know the difference, just to make sure they're clear on what they're speaking to?
At this time, we are holding an open public hearing on the Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2127. We'll be going through the process on this public hearing to allow anyone who wishes to speak the opportunity to speak. When the board gets to the rezoning, the speakers will be limited to persons who qualify as party of record. So the people that are speaking now may not be qualified to speak during the rezoning portion of this, this combined item.
Okay. Good evening.
May I speak? My name is Elizabeth Rodriguez. I think I've spoke at every hearing, so I should be on the record. My major issue with this is density, and I know that they have reduced it, but this is one of 3 projects that have been, well, one of 3, this one not being approved yet, but 2 have already been approved or maybe in the process. I have to check. I'm here as a concerned citizen because I live on a 406 South Miller Road. I'm sorry, I don't think I stated that. We tried to fight the high-density apartment complexes that were on Valrico and State Road 60. And Mulrennan and State Road 60 has a high-density project as well. And now, as a concerned citizen, we're being shut down with this local act, which suppresses our voices and our concern for our quality of life and our community. I have also attended unincorporated Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan meetings, and we were shown that high corners that are on high traffic or intersections are going to be commercial, not high density apartment complexes. Another thing is that Valrico doesn't have a comprehensive plan. At a lot of these town hall meetings and meetings that I go to that listen to the community and the opposition that we've gotten for these high density apartment complexes, the #1 complaint is traffic. You add 300 units on this project, 300 units on the next project, and 300 units on the next project, and add that, times that by 2 cars per unit, our roads are not sufficient to handle that. State Road 60 is not widened yet. Miller Road is a 2-lane highway. Valrico Road is a 2-lane highway. Lithia Pinecrest is a 2-way highway. Evacuation roads are important to us. These projects are a matter of concern because of their densities, not because they're apartments, or if they're low income, that's fine. It's the density that you're allowing these projects to be approved at. It is going to, excuse me, I'm trying to gather myself. When I go to the meetings and the hearings, it seems like we're only accommodating the people that are moving here and not really listening to the residents that already live here. I've lived here all my life. Not that that matters, but I pay my taxes. I'm an honest resident. I have never been arrested, and I think my life matters, and my child and my family and the rest of my community. So this is upsetting to me because, again, I have said it, we have put the cart before the horse.
Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, who's present. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Robert Padilla. I live at 212 Ronja Lane in Valrico, almost directly across the affected area that's looking to be developed. I'm also the HOA president for Bonterra, and had I known that this area would be developed with apartments, I probably wouldn't have moved in my home. We enjoy the ruralness of living where we do. Small town feel. My wife grew up in Plant City, and we made the decision to move back here in 2016. As you all know, today was the first day of school. I walked down the left side, on the east side of the sidewalk where it ends, and there's no sidewalk to continue down from my neighborhood down to the school. You have to either go to Miller and cross the street, or try your luck and cross the street at the intersection of my development. That is absolutely unsafe. Adding not just the numbers of this project, but the numbers of the other 2 projects within a square mile is going to severely impact the safety and traffic of the area. Kids that walk to school. There was kids a few years ago who got hit by another high school student on my very exact corner. It's not safe. And it seems like we're pigeonholed. We have to accept it and give them what they want, or go by the Live Local Act, and then they can maximize and put as many houses dwellings as they want. So as the commission, as our county commissioners, what are you going to do about the safety? The decision's already made. What are you going to do about the safety and the infrastructure to improve the quality of life for our residents. And that's what Ms. Belcher was talking about, putting the cart before the horse. What are we doing to improve this area? I can talk to you till I'm blue in the face about traffic, safety, but I want you to take a trip down there. Take a trip down there tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning when drop-off line is. You'll see what we're talking about. It's the eye test. I don't care about the daily trips. The eye test will tell you otherwise. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here want to speak to this item? Good evening.
Yeah, my name's Charles Bothy, and I live at 2303 Highway 60, Valrico. I've lived there for 40 years. Elizabeth and her family's been there for 50 years. My neighbors, Bianskis, have been there for 70 years. And, you know, we came to a meeting Tuesday night for the Planning Commission. Well, the first meeting we came to was on the lower floor, and there were so many people there that this last meeting, we were up on the 26th floor of this building here. And as you look out there, it's a very impressive sight. I mean, Tampa is up and coming. It's going to be one of the major metropolitan areas in the state. But it's not Valrico. And it's not just Robert or Elizabeth or me. We've had people write in, send emails, sign petitions. It's the density that we're talking about in putting these big 3- and 4-story apartment buildings. It's zoned for townhomes where the majority of people in Valrico own their own homes. They're hardworking people. And townhomes we think would be appropriate. They're 2 stories and it's not as dense. So that's the whole problem. I mean, the traffic's bad. I've been on this journey here for 18 months. I've been to about every one of these meetings. And if you were out there and you saw the traffic jams that are out there, it's bad, but it's the density, it's housed. And then there's the builders get incentives. What incentives does a citizen that's been there 40 years have to stay there when you're all going to approve these high density developments? I mean, what incentive do I have? I bought that, brought my daughters home from the hospital there. We raised them there, and it's just, it's like we have no choice. So I hope you all consider that. What happens to us there could easily happen to anyone in this room right here. You could wake up one day and have 4-story, 5-story apartments right next to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in person? I believe we have 2 that are virtual.
The first one is Leila Lollyquist.
Good evening, Ms. Lollyquist.
Yes, this is Leila Lollyquist in Brandon. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm in opposition to the proposal of putting this project in there. This afternoon, I went out and took pictures of the 1,000 trees that are on the ground at Mulrennan Road and Highway 60 for the development there for low-income housing. And we have too much traffic on 60. There's too many accidents. I cannot tell you over the years that I've said to homeless how many bicycle deaths have happened at Valrico Road and Highway 60, which is right there next to where they're proposing putting in these apartments. If you guys could just stop and think, the trees that went down today, the Farm Bureau secretary said that their air conditioner will not go below 80 degrees since they started cutting down these trees, because that was a buffer that kept them shaded, their building. Lots of meetings are held at the Farm Bureau there on Mulrennan and 60. So this is going to happen the same way at Miller Road. We're going to see the green space disappear, and we're going to see nothing except apartments and more houses. And I think a moratorium should be put in place immediately due to the heat temperatures that are rising every day, and that we're not going backwards. We need to go forward, and we need to be planting trees and making it to where you cannot cut down trees anymore in Brandon. We're looking like a sore thumb, like we went to the hospital and got battered in an accident, and they tried to put us back together again, but we're not. And our souls are really screaming for your attention to take into consideration the long-term residents. This is our quality of life that you're messing with, and it's not acceptable what you're proposing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next virtual speaker.
Next one is Austin Zane.
Hi, yes. Thank you for letting me call in tonight. I'm in opposition to this project because after driving by the carnage and destruction that I witnessed on Mulrennan and Valrico Road, I simply in my heart and soul cannot approve to anything that's like this. The destruction of our trees and habitats, people may drive by them and say, oh, it's just another bushy swamp and nobody wants to have anything to do with it, it's just a mess. But you have to really look at the fact that these places are sanctuaries, and these places keep Tampa and Hillsborough County cool. They keep our animal ecosystems thriving. They keep the citizens' minds at peace. Because when you drive by and all you see is concrete, houses, traffic, people pulling in, people pulling out, accidents, buildings, concrete, it's not an enjoyable sight. On State Road 60, going on Valrico Road, it goes from a 4-lane road to, and when it hits the light of Valrico Road, it turns into a 3-lane road, and then right after that, it turns into a 2-lane road. There's constantly people merging, cutting off, crashes, traffic jams. The roads that go connecting to 60 are 2-lane roads. So there's not like you could really expand on them, and there's not like there's a lot of room for cars to have traffic and increase density. It's not going to work. This goes back to all of the projects that I've been witnessing. This started because of the street that I live on. There's a project that was approved. The whole community came out and said, no, we don't want this, but somehow it went through. And I know that money talks, but we have to hear the voices of the community, because I feel like those are the people who are putting the taxpayers' money into the city, into the county, into people, into businesses' pockets. And I just think that this should not be approved. It's a terrible place to put it. And we're losing Brandon. We're losing the character, the soul, becoming soulless. It's becoming just another traffic highway in Florida. And we're not Miami. We're not Orlando. We need to realize that. There's plenty of places people can move, brand new constructions in Orlando. And we're losing.
All right, thank you. This time, applicant has.
Sorry,
Are you finished, Mr. Zane? I guess so. All right, applicant has up to 3-minute rebuttal.
Elise Batzel for the record. With respect to density, I want to address that comment. We have significantly reduced the density from this original request. And this is State Road 60. This is a major roadway where commercial or high-intense residential development is intended to be developed. With respect to traffic, this property is going to be developed. There is going to be more traffic regardless. It is not going to stay vacant. And I understand that change is really hard. I've talked with almost all of these community members many times. And I wouldn't want my community to change either. But the choices here are one of 3 choices. It stays existing commercial, which generates 5,282 trips a day. We go with the proposal that we are proposing today, which is 1,691 trips, or this is denied and we move forward with the Live Local, which is going to be some kind of traffic in between 1,691 and 5,282 trips. There will be additional traffic on this road from this property. We are going to be required to make a number of site access improvements and sidewalk improvements all around our site. That is going to be required during permitting as part of this application. And I think that a number of the residents have changed their opinion. They may not be here, but I want to read you a letter and submit it into the record that came into Commissioner Owen yesterday from Roy Glasser, who represents the Feather Rock Mobile Home Owners Association. Commissioner Owen, I had originally submitted an email requesting that the application for rezoning or major modification request be denied by the Board of County Commissioners. I have had a number of discussions with the attorney for the developer, Elise Batzel, who let me know the options that the developer has for this project, including using the Live Local Act, now in effect, to increase the number of units to be built if this application is not approved. Ms. Batzel assured me that the developer will work within this application parameters if this project is approved. I am the treasurer of the Feather Rock Mobile Home Owners Association, a development with 521 people located 1 block from the location. And I have discussed at our most recent Board of Directors meeting that although we don't want any development at this location, we feel that the developer has worked in good faith to honor as many concerns as possible that we originally had, and that we are now in agreement that we would like the Board of County Commissioners to vote yes on this application. Thank you for your consideration. If I may, could I submit a copy of this into the record?
Sure.
With that, our team is available to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're going to vote on this after the rezoning hearing. Commissioner Owen, you're in the queue. Do you want to speak to the amendment, or do you want to wait till after the rezoning?
I'll wait for a board discussion.
Okay. All right, thank you. Staff want to introduce the major mod?
Good evening, Commissioners. Brian Grady, Hillsborough County Development Services. The next item is agenda item A2A. It's the related major mod application 22-0.
Excuse me. At this time, I would request that the speakers be sworn in.
Yeah, that was listed after the introduction, but we can do that now if that's what we want to do.
You can stand and raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Please continue, Mr. Grady.
Again, for the record, Brian Grady, Hillsborough County Development Services. Agenda item A2A is related major mod application 22-0689. It's a major modification to amend the existing PD to allow between 221 multifamily units and up to 252 with a gray water technology bonus. Before Michelle Heinrich goes through a brief overview of the request and staff recommendation, I do have one correction of the record. Scrivener's error was discovered in the recommended conditions of approval, specifically condition 4. It failed to reflect the reduction in the building heights proposed as part of the most recent remand. Therefore, we're correcting that to reflect that the maximum building heights will be 40 feet 2 stories or 45 feet 3 stories. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Michelle Heinrich, Development Services. As you've heard tonight, this site is located at the southwest corner of Miller and State Road 60. It's currently zoned PD 060464, as most recently modified by Major Mod 14-05 or 15-0538. As you heard, it is currently approved for 75,000 square feet of CG uses and 86 townhomes. The site is located in the State Road 60 overlay, and as you heard, there is a companion application, Comp Plan Amendment 2127, requesting a density change from Res 4 and Res 9 to Res 12. Also, no PD variations have been requested for this application. This was heard by the zoning hearing master on April 17th of this year, which was a remand from the December 15th, 2022 CPA BOCC public hearing. And the applicant, as you've heard from the presentation, has made numerous changes. And this graphic is in our staff report. And just to go over those quickly, as you heard, the applicants are reducing the number of proposed units and density from 312 units, which was at 16 units per acre, to 221 at 12 units per acre, or with the gray water technology, 252 multifamily units. They've converted the southernmost building from 3 stories to 2 stories. And as you heard from the applicant, this has changed the overall project from being comprised of 4 and 3-story buildings to 3 and 2-story buildings. They've added a 4th 2-story building, reduced the southern setback from 185 to 90 feet, shifted the southernmost parking and drive aisle southward, reduced the southern buffer from 50 to 20 feet, reduced the western and eastern setbacks from 110 to 100 feet, reduced the northeastern setback from 96 to 90 feet, and converted 2 buildings south of the clubhouse from 4 stories to 3 stories. And this also just is a graphic of our analysis. When looking at these changes, staff found the request to still meet or exceed the LDC requirements, which address compatibility, which includes building heights, meeting the 2-to-1 setback for buildings over 20 feet in height, buffering, and screening. Again, no objections from reviewing agencies were filed, and Planning Commission staff found this to be consistent. Therefore, staff recommends approval subject to proposed conditions. And I'm available if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. This time the applicant has up to 10 minutes.
Good evening, Elise Batzel with Stearns Weaver Miller. This is a major modification 22-0689. You're aware of our team here. We have our traffic engineer, our architect on the line, legal and land planning, as well as the developer. Again, this property is 18.4 acres in Valrico, generally located at the corner of State Road 60 and Miller Road. It is within the urban service area, Valrico community-wide planning area, but not in the Brandon community plan. It is within the urban service area, 1.6 miles within the urban service boundary. We've talked a lot about the project history. Suffice it to say that we have been through many, many iterations, and every time that we come back with this project, we've made reductions, we have reduced building heights, and we have reduced density, all in an effort to answer community concerns. This is what you saw during the comp plan amendment, but this shows you what our initial application was. We're going from 312 units to 221 or 252 with a gray water. I'll talk a little bit more about what that is. Or from 16.89 dwelling units down to 12 or 13.6. We have reduced our maximum height from 4 stories to 3 stories with a number of 2-story buildings, and we are limiting access to emergency only on Miller Road. This is just a graphic depiction of where the 3-story buildings are and 2-story buildings. I think you can see that a little bit better from this depiction. As you can see, the 2-story buildings are closer to the single-family residential to the south. That was purposeful design. So the gray water bonus, it is a statutory bonus that was developed in 2021. It was passed by the state legislature under the water conservation element, not under growth management, so it didn't get a lot of attention for a long period of time. To simplify it down in really simple terms, it is a second set of plumbing that you put in units, whether they're multifamily or single family, and it takes the water from your sinks and your showers, and it filters it, and it uses it to flush toilets, and it's a water conservation measure. So those density bonuses were put in place by the legislature in 2021. Hillsborough County has already approved 1 gray water density program. The density bonuses that you receive are 25% density bonus or up to. This project is asking for like 16 or something small. If you have 75% of your units implementing the gray water bonus. There's also 100% and 35% density, but that's not what we're asking for today. Again, this property is not a clean slate. This is heavily entitled with 75,000 square feet of commercial development and 86 townhomes. The maximum height is 40 feet for the townhomes and the maximum height 35 feet for commercial. We're asking for a similar maximum height of 3 stories. There are 2 access points on Miller Road right now. We are eliminating those access points and making it emergency access only at the request of the community. We've talked about this, but for the record, the current commercial and townhome entitlements generate 5,282 trips. I know traffic is a big concern with this community, and this proposal would reduce that down to 1,691 maximum trips per day. there are substantially increased setbacks in addition from the single family in this proposal compared to what is approved. This is just a visual depiction so you can see the massing of what's approved today versus what we're proposing. Isabel, if I want to introduce you, again, just another visual depiction. Isabel is our certified AICP planner, and she'll talk through a couple of planning implications for this rezoning.
Thank you. Isabel Albert, for the record, from HAV, 1000 North Ashley Drive, and I am a certified planner. So this takes us to the infill policy, Objective 23 of the comprehensive plan that prohibits or would like to discourage some strip commercial development. And as you can see along this corridor, there is a lot of commercial and retail and office development in that area. And more specifically, if you look at policy 23.5, states that along major corridors such as State Road 60, they encourage high-density residential development in lieu of commercial or office development. And also, if you look at the area, as you heard earlier, this is a perfect location for a higher density residential development, especially with walking distance to two major grocery stores and all the surrounding retail and service retail in the area. So this brings us to realizing that we do have some large lots surrounding this property, and compatibility can be addressed through proper planning design. And this is what we have, and it's currently already in place by distancing single family to multifamily. In this case, we have, which is quite unusual, the big distance between those two development styles. And another component also is the increase in screening with the natural vegetation that's already in place, and that also helps with the intent of the compatibility component of it. But that's on the outside. If you look on the inside, on-site, the increase in setback is being proposed. As Ms. Heinrich said, it's above code, to code, and above code. So what we're looking at right now is the site triangle. And we'll see how the setbacks and increased setbacks helps and is very important for this. So the thought is, a lot of people's conception is if you have a higher building, you could be more seen from the public realm. But in fact, that's not always true. If you have greater setbacks, that does reduce that visual. And this is what we see here. If you look at it, the red design is what's currently approved, and everything above that dashed line is what could be seen more from the public realm. And this is shown, and this is how we address it with the additional setback, the further setback. And this is shown throughout the whole surrounding development as we go around it. Again, you see again the red, you can see it more above the dashed line, just like in this instance as well, and here, and then these two as well. And so that brings me to staff, again, finding this consistent and compatible with the area. And next is Mr. Steve Henry. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Steve Henry, Links & Associates, 5023 West Laurel, Tampa 33607. This graphic illustrates the traffic associated with the project. So the red is the approved project and the green is what we're proposing. So as indicated, the approved project would have about 5,282 daily trip ends, whereas what we're proposing with you tonight is about 1,691, which is a 68% reduction in the traffic. Let me show you the right button. If I can hit the right button. Which one? There we go. There we go. Okay, this represents the peak hour. So on the left-hand side is the AM peak hour. On the right-hand side is the PM peak hour. Again, red is the approved, green is what we're proposing. So in the AM peak hour, there'd be 214 vehicles for the approved versus 101 for us. Again, a 52% reduction. In the PM peak hours, 506 under the approved, 129 what is proposed. That's a 74% reduction in the traffic for the project. And it's also indicated that with the proposed project, there's going to be no access to Miller Road, which will also reduce the amount of traffic that would be on Miller Road based on the approved project. Thank you.
This is just a graphic depiction, Elise Batzel for the record, just a graphic depiction to the changes in the height and density, the reductions in all of those, and the increase in lower story buildings. Development staff has recommended approval. Planning Commission found the project consistent and recommended approval, as did the zoning hearing master. The staff report and the Planning Commission report are both very thorough. They go through a very detailed job of outlining how this project is compatible with the surrounding areas. Our expert planner also testified to the compatibility of this project with the surrounding neighborhood. Transportation staff in your rezoning staff report testified to the reduction in traffic compared to what is approved today, as did our traffic expert. We propose today for you a significant reduction in units, a significant decrease in traffic. And we believe that we have worked very hard to come back here over and over again with a project that you can find approvable. We respectfully request your approval, and all of us are here to answer any questions that you have on anything this evening. Thank you so much for listening and for your time.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to proponent and opponent testimony from parties of record. Is there anyone here in support of the application? All right, those opposed who are parties of record?
Commissioner, we have 2 online.
Okay, we need to confirm that these folks are parties of record.
Can you please identify the people who are signed up online?
We have Leila Lollyquist and Austin Zane.
Okay. Neither of those speakers are qualified as parties of record for the rezoning.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Rodriguez Belcher again at 406 South Miller Road. I do agree that they have done significant changes to make us feel a little bit warm and cozy about it. Again, my issue, this might be the last opportunity for us to talk as a public. I feel like we're being given an ultimatum. Again, it's not just this project, it's the multiple ones that have been approved that is adding significant sprawl, density, traffic to Highway 60 and the neighboring roads. I cannot stress, I drive there, I walk on Miller Road. I know that they're cutting down trips, but it also depends on what time. It's the density. It's not just this project. It's all the other ones combined together. And I know that they don't have a control over that, and I'm not trying to feel warm and fuzzy about the woods. I understand that there's development, and I hope that they are, the depictions of the pictures were the trees. I hope that they are required to plant that many trees to replace the beautiful trees that we have there. I understand development, but it's just, again, Hillsborough County keeps approving these projects, and it's a combination of all these projects. Brandon is being filled with apartments. Now it's going to go to Valrico. Now it's going to go to Plant City, and it's just going to continue. Is that a responsible way of planning? I'm frustrated because we do not have a comprehensive plan for Valrico, but yet we're approving all these projects that are high density. You go to Wesley Chapel, apartments. You go down south to Riverview, apartments. They're being approved right and left. Where are the other people going to live that don't live in apartments? We have no other options. I feel like we're being pinned as a community and as a part of people that already live here. So I feel like I have an ultimatum, and I feel like I'm being silenced. So it's nothing personal with this group, because they have changed it and they have met with us and they've heard us. I do agree with that. It's the fact that Hillsborough County has approved so many high-density projects, and our roads are not being improved. Our infrastructure is not being improved. That's the frustration. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Robert Padilla. I live at 212 Ronjo Lane in the Bonterra HOA. I am the HOA president. I can almost assure you, I'm 99.9% sure all 90 residents in my community do not want this to happen. Because of recent legislature changes, I believe you guys have no choice but to approve it, otherwise face the consequences. Like Ms. Belcher said, we're given an ultimatum. I hope you consider the third, fourth order effects, the ripple effects, if you will, of what's going to happen. You're going to be flooded with emails requesting for improved infrastructure conditions, better safety measures. I'm already thinking about wanting to lower the speed on Miller going south and north. It's 40 miles an hour with unimproved sidewalks near a school. There's limited lighting at night. When traffic gets backed up going north on Miller and you try to turn left, you're liable to get hit like my wife did in 2020. And she was found at fault because she couldn't see and she pulled out and somebody hit her. There's been several accidents. At least a third of my community has been in an accident at that intersection because of those traffic conditions. So I ask you as our community leaders, I believe the decision's already been made, whether we know it or not. You're pigeonholed into making a decision today. But what are we going to do after the fact? What are we going to do to improve the lives of the residents that live here? Not just the ones that are moving here, but what are we going to do to improve the safety, the infrastructure? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next.
Yes, my name's Charles Bothy. I live at 2303 Highway 60 in Valrico. I guess everybody hates to see their community change. When I moved there in 1974, I thought I'd found a little piece of paradise. And it seems like we're paving paradise and putting up a parking lot. And I know there's got to be places for people to move to and live in, but around us, we have townhomes where people, some of them rent, but most of them own the townhomes. We're trying to protect the character of our neighborhoods. I've lived there 40 years. It's been a safe place to live. The traffic is terrible, and this is just going to add to it. But it's just, we're approving more and more high-density apartments. And what about the residents that are already there and have been there and have been paying their taxes and being good stewards? What about their rights? So I hope you consider that tonight when you make your decision. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else here present in opposition? All right, the applicant has a 5-minute rebuttal.
For the record, Elise Batzel, Stearns Weaver Miller. I'll take a couple of the smaller issues and then I'll go a little bit bigger. With respect to sidewalks, there is a sidewalk network, although I understand from the community that it really needs to be rebuilt. We are going to do that around our property, number one. Number two, we are required to plant all of the required landscaping in accordance with the city code and in accordance with the enhanced setbacks and what we've shown on our plan. We're required to that. We're committed to doing that, and we will do that during permitting. With respect to traffic, we're in a little bit of an awkward place always as developers because we used to come before you during concurrency and you'd approve a project and we had to fix the roads around us to accommodate our development. And what we have to do today is we write a check to the county, a big check, I don't remember what it is, but over $1 million, and we give that to you to deploy out into the community. And I know that the county is very backed up and doesn't have enough funds to do the improvements, but it puts us in a really awkward position because we can't make those improvements anymore. We can't fix the problem for the community, and it always puts the community and development at odds. And we would love, as a community, to be able to address those when the developments come in. Food for thought. We absolutely are not trying to give an ultimatum with this at all. The state did that by providing other development options under the Live Local Act. If you go back to the letter that Mr. Glasser wrote, Ms. Batzel assured me that the developer will work within the application parameters if it's approved. We have to. The Live Local Act is only permitted for areas that aren't zoned residential, commercial, industrial, or mixed use. If you approve this comp plan and rezoning, it will no longer be zoned commercial in the commercial portion. We will no longer have that option to proceed under the Live Local Act. So you will take that away as part of this approval. The developer has also worked very hard to stick with this project and continue to make modification after modification after modification. This is actually the most I've ever in 27, 26 years been back for one project before the Board of County Commissioners. And I honestly thought they were going to give up a long time ago, but they believe in this site. They want to make a good project for the community, and they invested a lot in talking with the community and making those modifications. They don't want to build commercial, and they don't want to build under the Live Local Act. They want to build this modified plan. So we would request your approval tonight. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Planning Commission?
Carlianos with Planning Commission staff. Planning Commission reviewed the application for the major modification under 22-0689. We reviewed the comp plan policies that apply to it, and there is a clarification that we want to make. Even though the property is not within the Valrico Community Plan, it is subject to the future land use element policies. There are current undergoing a community plan update, so hopefully when we're reaching out for public engagement, which is ongoing right now, for potentially the creation as mandated by the board for the Valrico Community Plan. So it's still ongoing, but it still hasn't been adopted yet. So currently the future land use element policies are in appliance right now. Now the subject site, again, they are asking for 221 dwelling units or the 252 with the gray water bonus density. Now, we looked at the future land use element policies to make sure that it is consistent with the residential 12 future land use category that they were requesting. It is consistent. We also looked at some of the site plan to make sure that it creates a good transition of use, particularly consistency with the community design component policies. We did see and notice quite a bit of improvement on the site plan in terms of pushing some of the higher buildings towards the center and up north of the subject site. We did also notice that they placed some of the stormwater ponds as creating some type of aesthetic as you're driving by State Route 60, as well as pushing a great amount of setback distance between the road and the proposed building sites. We also noticed also to the south of the site, the same thing happens. You have an overall about a 95-foot setback all around from the buildings from the adjacent property lines. Additionally, we did look at some landscaping. We made suggestions for compatibility, so we're glad that those were incorporated into the conditions of approval. So currently, Planning Commission staff, again, has reviewed for compatibility policies under policy 1.2, 1.3, some of the objective policies for the neighborhood protection. We did look at, again, the community design components, and we looked at the strip commercial changes, going from commercial over to, a residentially modification or a plan development. So at this point, Planning Commission staff, recommends that this, rezoning or the major modification be found consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan. And we will be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you. Zoning Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the proposed major modification to the subject plan development, rezoning approximately 18.48 acres. Subject property is designated residential 4 and residential 9 on the future land use map and zone PD 06-464. The property is on the south side of State Road 60 in Valrico. State Road 60 is a 4-lane divided arterial roadway and is a primary east-west corridor through the Brandon and Valrico communities. The property is on a segment of State Road 60 that is developed primarily with office and commercial uses, with some single-family agricultural and mobile home park uses. Single-family development exists north and south of State Road 60 in the surrounding area. The applicant's request is for a major modification of the current PD zoning to remove the existing approval for 75,000 square feet of CG uses and 86 townhomes, and requesting approval for 221 multifamily units at 12 units per acre, or 252 units at 13.64 units per acre, using a gray water density bonus provided under Florida statute. The applicant has applied for comprehensive plan amendment, CPA 2127. The applicant has amended its CPA request and is now seeking to amend the future land use map designation to residential 12 rather than residential 20 as was originally proposed. The board had directed that the requested major modification be processed and heard concurrently with that comprehensive plan amendment. After the most recent continuance and remand of the project, including both the CPA and the remand of the major modification, the applicant made significant revisions to the site plan and comprehensive plan amendment. Revisions include reduction in the proposed number of units and density, conversion of the southernmost buildings from 3 stories to 2 stories, addition of a 4th 2-story building, reduction of the southern setback from 185 to 90 feet, shift of the southernmost parking and drive aisle southward, reduction of the southern buffer from 50 to 20 feet, reduction of the western and eastern setbacks from 110 to 100 feet, reduction of the northeastern setback from 96 to 90 feet, conversion of the 2 buildings south of the clubhouse from 4 to 3 stories, and the request for the gray water density bonus option. The zoning hearing master found in reviewing the request that the development that is proposed under the major modification request would result in significantly less visual impacts to surrounding residential uses as compared to development under the subject property's existing planned development zoning, based on enhanced buffering, screening, setbacks, building height and placement, and the overall design of the development. The zoning hearing master noted that during the most recent hearing, citizens from the surrounding community raised concerns related to traffic impacts and community character. However, the zoning hearing master concluded that the development under the proposed major modification as revised would result in far less adverse traffic and visual impacts than development under the existing zoning entitlements. The zoning hearing master concluded that the proposed major modification is consistent with the comprehensive plan and with the land development code, and recommended approval.
Okay, we'll go into board discussion. Commissioner Owen?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Until that gentleman spoke before, I thought nobody knew this area better than me. I've been here since 1974, so I know every single road in this particular stretch of road. I know we discussed it last time, but from Valrico Road to Miller Road, just to give you a perspective of the traffic, it's probably the worst rush hour traffic in East County, I would say. There are 3 roads that are 2-lane roads that feed off at Miller Road, Valrico Road, and obviously Lithia Pinecrest Road. I do believe that the developer and their extremely learned counsel has dealt in good faith, for sure. The issue here is just planning and just this particular development and this stretch of road. I can't imagine what is going to happen. I think that this road, if this gets live local and gets developed the way that the developers want, will probably be the worst mile of road in East and including South County as far as planning. What's really, I think, important also to take into account is, the you wouldn't, this road too, as far as walkability and things, I know that was discussed. You would not want to walk even on a sidewalk here on Highway 60. You know, I had when I ran for election, I had a open primary. So I knocked on every door from Bonterra to Valrico Forest to Carriage Park to Miller Woods. And one of the common threads was, you know, please don't ever develop those into apartments or affordable housing there on Highway 60 and Valrico and Miller Road. So for me, I'm in a tough spot because, you know, I made a commitment to the people of Valrico, and I think it's very important for us also to note, because even some of the speakers would talk about Brandon. Valrico is not Brandon, and that's the reason why I proposed us to do a Valrico community plan, because this particular stretch of road dances on the urban service area line. I mean, like I said, I get my strawberry milkshakes right down the road from here. It's farms. So having this type of growth and infrastructure is not good planning. You know, as far as the Live Local Act goes, you know, it is a tough situation to be in. I'm not going to be bullied by it because that is a Tallahassee, it's a piece of legislation that doesn't have anything to do with this board. And if developers want to go under that, they have every right to do it. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to make decisions, bad decisions for planning based on poor legislation. I do believe that if these properties get developed through the Live Local Act, these will be the poster child of why the Live Local Act shouldn't exist or should be tweaked. You know, I've been in lots of meetings on the Live Local Act the last couple weeks, Zoom meetings with other counties or folks from other counties. And the purpose of the Live Local Act was really for abandoned warehouses in the urban core to be converted to affordable housing. That is not what these properties are. These properties are vacant land, former farmland. Sure, there are some commercial. There's a Taco Bell, Burger King, and Walgreens or CVS there, but this was not an area that can withstand high residential use. And again, for me personally, that I represent the folks of District 4, I made a commitment that I would not support this, despite, as I will admit to, this developer and their council really dealing, I think, in good faith on trying to get this done. But this stretch of road right here, it feeds over into many districts. Commissioner Hagan, it feeds up towards Sefner and then Thenona-Sassa towards your way as well. I just cannot get behind this and support this because, again, I made a commitment that I would not support this type of development on this particular piece of property. And despite the Live Local Act, I just don't see that I can go back on my word to the people of my district. So I will not be supporting it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you, Chair. I would say to the speakers, Mr. Padilla, Mrs. Belcher, your presentations were extremely thoughtful and articulate, and you said everything that needs to be said. I find myself once or twice a month up here fighting against apartments. Ask any developer, they know I'm Mr. Anti-Apartment, and I'm fine with that moniker. Commissioner Owen said something, though, that really stuck out to me is, do you want this property to be the poster child of Live Local Act? And I fought with Commissioner Owen several months ago against this development, and it's now down to 2 stories, half of it, 3 stories remaining. And I'm just worried that while I'm not in any way going to be bullied, I guess was his words, by the Live Local Act, I'm also not willing for your backyard to be the poster child of it and you wake up to 5-story apartments. It's an impossible position to be put in. I will say to Mr. Padilla, don't let this be your last time speaking. And also, Mrs. Belcher, in terms of the public safety aspects, the budget hearings are up and coming, and I encourage you to come and speak at those. The current budget in place that's moving forward has more money going to transportation network improvements that I can find since 2016 in the past 7 years, and come and ask for more, and you will see me joining in and making sure that that happens and that it gets allocated to these serious safety network areas of the county. I feel like this is a best worst case scenario of what's currently happening, and I see your head nodding, and it's an impossible position, and I do applaud you though for all of your effort and coming here this evening.
Commissioner Cohen.
Thank you very much. You can tell from Commissioner Owen's comments and Commissioner Wastel's comments that this is a very, very difficult issue. The reason that I agree, though, with Commissioner Wastel's analysis is in my briefing, when I was asking our staff to take me through what would be the sequence of events that would take place if the plan amendment were denied, the commercial zoning remained, and the developer had options under the Live Local Act. And my understanding is that they would be eligible with an affordable housing bonus for up to 35 units per acre, which would result in up to 644 units on this property. So that's one option, something almost 3 times the size of what's being asked for. And by the way, that would be something that would be established administratively. That wouldn't come in front of this board for us to say up or down or have any kind of negotiation about. The other is for it to remain as it is. But I think that if you take that gamble, there's just no way to, even if you decide that you'd prefer to have the commercial and the 86 townhomes, it's not under your control that that's what it's going to be if we vote this down. And I think the Hobson's choice here has been really, really well described by all of you. But the risk of denying this is exactly what Commissioner Wastel said, relating back to Commissioner Owen's first comments. The risk is becoming the poster child for the very worst case scenario under the Live Local Act. And I would not want to see my neighborhood be the poster child. I don't want to say let some other neighborhood be the poster child, but I would say to you all that came down here tonight that I think it would be better not to have your neighborhood be in that position.
Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes, I agree with the local residents that spoke in opposition of this, and the density, the traffic, and the safety concerns as well. So therefore, I cannot support this.
Commissioner Kemp.
I will just say a few comments because you heard a lot about Live Local and impacts and that. One thing you heard tonight was that this property dances on the edge of the urban service area. Unfortunately, that is not true and has not been true since 2014. In fact, today I was confirming right out the road there, it may look rural, but there's 3,000 acres there that right out 60 that can be developed. I just want to make sure that people understand that. We've also been having discussions here at this board, and I don't agree with them, but to move the urban service line and put it out even further and provide more places where development can go. And by the way, when that happens, we exponentially put the cost onto your tax bill and mine, or onto your tax bill actually, because it's the unincorporated county that will be paying for that explicitly in the taxes there. It'll put the burden on you, and it also reduces any income we have, which is really very constrained for us to pay for transportation and safety infrastructure, of which I've been advocating for all my years. So I was very interested in hearing what you have to say about that, and it does need to be prioritized, and we do need to reduce the speed of what's happening at Miller Road and look at those explicitly. But if the urban service area continues to be expanded, as is being said, and your increasing number of taxes will be used not for infrastructure needs that are already there, but for new areas that are going to be opened up. So I'll just put that out there. And I do think we're in a very bad position here with the mandates of live local and what it would put on us. But it's unfortunately, that's what happens when the legislature keeps taking away local rule, as they do over and over and over again on, erode it so that those closest to it are not ones that are making these kinds of decisions. And by the way, the Live Local Act doesn't even consider coastal high hazard areas, doesn't consider transportation needs. Some years ago, the state legislature took away the right to concurrency, transportation concurrency, which was mandated. They took away that when they did growth management. So it's been an ever deteriorating situation in terms of what a local commission can do to respond to these issues.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here for a second. I mean, I understand the concerns raised by the residents and as well as Commissioner Owen's position, and I respect them. They know the area far better than I do. But the reality is this parcel will be developed, and from everything that I've learned and in the backup, I mean, I believe it's the best that it's going to get. I mean, Commissioner will still use the term best, worst effort. The intensity is less, the vehicle trips are far less, the height is lower, they're eliminating access points. I'm not a big fan of apartments either, but the unfortunate reality is this parcel does qualify under the Live Local Act. There's no disputing that. If this is denied, Commissioner Cohen said it best, it will be approved administratively, and it will not come in front of this board, and what will be approved will be far more intense than what's approved now and what is being asked right now. So I'm gonna pass the gavel to Commissioner Myers, and I'll make a motion to approve CPA 2127.
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Hagan, second by Commissioner Cohen. Any discussion from anyone? I don't see anyone in the queue. Please record your votes.
No.
Motion carried 5-2. Commissioners Cameron, Cepeda, and Owen voted no.
Okay, can we have a motion on Major Mod 22-0689?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to approve by Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Myers. If there are no comments on this motion, please record your vote.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-1. Commissioner Cameron, Cepeda voted no.
Okay. Adam, anything else we have tonight?
No, sir, that concludes our agenda.
All right, we're adjourned.